And so she started inquiring about them. And Lady said that her father had always saved the seed from that turnip, and she was as well. And Gladys was elderly and passed away in the fall of 1977. There was one big turnip left in her garden, and Marianne knew that she'd been saving that for seed. That it was a first-year plant that had been left in the garden to set seed the next year. So as Marianne said, I figured she would have wanted someone to rescue it, so I did. I kept the turnip in a plastic, loosely closed in a bag in our refrigerator that winter, and the next spring planted it in a big pot of compost. I kept it right outside our back door where the woodchucks wouldn't nibble it. And so then it did flower and set seed, and she saved seed from that one plant, and was able to keep that variety going. Mary Ann then went on, this was 1977, she stewarded Lady's rutabaga in honor of her memory for some 25, 30 years after that, and kept it going, and then eventually donated it to Seed Savers Exchange, and that's kind of why we have it now. And she got interested in the history of Lady's family too, since she knew it had come from Lady McGee's father originally. Discovered she did some genealogical work. Discovered that her father's name was John McGee. He was born in 1863 and died in 1934, and that John's grandfather originally came to New York in the early 1800s and was an early settler in the St. Lawrence County in that area. So we don't know when in that history they first picked up this turnip or rutabaga variety and started stewarding it. But we were able to Mary Ann to learn at least a little bit about where it may have come from. This is another variety in our collection that's a very unique pea because it has an exceptional dwarfing habit. It stays very short. That's it growing on a cattle panel, and those cattle panels are on 6-inch spacing, and it's just barely hitting the top of that first rung on it. So, 6 to 8 inches is about as tall as it gets. It's a shelling pea. The pods are not, the pods are pretty fibrous, but it's a really sweet shelling pea. And it came to us from Dave Niswanger of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, had a letter with it. And this is a map showing some of the history of places that are involved in this story. He said, "Dear sirs, I'm enclosing some garden pea seed, which to my knowledge is not available on the commercial market. This pea is a dwarf. It grows about 9 inches tall and does not require staking. The flavor is different from any peas I've tasted. It is not as sweet as some varieties. This seed has been in our family for at least 130 years. The James Roberts family brought the seed to Missouri around 1864 from Tennessee. My grandmother, Coralie Roberts, was the daughter of James Roberts and was about 3 or 4 years old when the family moved to Missouri. She married my grandfather, David Benton Niswanger, in 1877. After selling their farm in 1885 in Cape Girardeau County, Missouri, they joined a wagon train led by Coralie's oldest brother, Castle, to homestead land in Texas. But on the way, Grandma Roberts died, and a short time later, Castle caught pneumonia from riding in the rain to map out their trail, and also died. These events upset the family to the extent they didn't know what to do. Coralie and David Niswanger bought a farm in Webster County on Cantrell Creek near the cemetery where Grandpa Roberts was buried. The rest of the family finally settled around Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Coralie and David had bought a farm in Webster County, and after 1 year sold it back and returned to Baltimore County. Through all these moves and tribulations, Coralie managed to hang on to the pea seeds. We call them grandma seeds. This variety should not be lost. Sincerely yours, David Niswanger. So it's an example of, I think, of how valuable these seeds were to families. This family went through a lot of migration, some upheaval, some trauma, hardship, and this woman, Coralie, they hung on to those seeds all through that, because it was important. It's how they were going to grow food whenever they finally stabilized and landed somewhere. She wanted to make sure she had those seeds. So we're very happy that David shared that with us. This is Grandma's peas in the foreground. All of the learning going back behind it. Standard types of pea. Another variety that we have in the collection is called Mossdollar Wild Goose Bean. This variety is very popular in Southwest Pennsylvania, as I discovered when I did a talk there. I would have random strangers come up to me and just say, "Have you heard about the Mossdollar Wild Goose Bean?" And so it started with the Mossdollar family, but it's sort of a regional heirloom that's become popular throughout that area. This variety came to us for the first time in 1981 in the bean collection of a man named John Withy, who donated over 1,000 bean varieties to us. And John ran a group called Wanigan Associates, which is a network of bean seed savers who all brought together different heirloom beans and shared and swapped them with one another. So he had acquired this bean from Ralph Mossdollar of Somerset, Pennsylvania. And Ralph actually himself became an SSE member later and listed this bean himself from the mid-1980s through about the mid-1990s. And it turns out there's actually a lot of beans out there that have names like wild goose or turkey crop. I don't know if any of you are familiar with any of these or have seen them. There isn't just one wild goose bean. Like you might have a wild goose bean from Indiana that will look totally different from a wild goose bean that's from Kentucky. It will look totally different from the Mossdollar wild goose. They all share this a shared origin story, but it's all different beans. And the common origin story for these beans is that they are found in the craw of either the turkey or the goose when it's being butchered after having been harvested. And then they're like, oh, well, here's some bean seeds, and let's plant these and see if they go. And allegedly they do. And then people are like, well, this is our wild goose bean because we pulled it out of the neck of a wild goose. And that's why there's so many of them. And who knows, maybe some of those stories may be apocryphal.
Does that picture show how tall the bean is growing?
Yes, it does. Yeah, that is that's the bean growing on a trellis, and it's up there. That is Louis Mossdollar, one of Ralph's relatives, in 1982, showing off.
That's one pod?
Sorry? No. He's holding some kind of stick or something. He's got a pod in that hand there, and then it's growing up way past his head up on a trellis near his house. So the specific story on this bean that Ralph Mossdollar shared is that there were two brothers, David and John Mossdollar, who had recently returned from the Civil War and were now back on the farm for their first fall back on the farm since the war ended in 1865. And they were working with their father operating a sawmill on Stony Creek. And David Mossdollar was Ralph's grandfather. But the brothers saw a goose that was on the mill race, the downflow area from the mill, and they shot it and they bagged it and they delivered it to their mother Sarah to pluck and cook up for dinner. And Sarah noticed that its crop was quite full while she was plucking and processing the goose, and retrieved several bean seeds out of the craw of that goose. And they planted them the next spring to figure out what they were all about. And the seeds grew. They discovered that it was this really prolific full variety that is really good as a shelling bean and as a dry bean. And they immediately started stewarding it and planting it every year. Ralph wrote to us that the first time he planted the beans that they grew a whole lot taller than the support poles. And his neighbor was making fun of him and said that he must have planted the Jack and the Beanstalk beans. The family has also observed that the variety is fairly early maturing, and they believe that the goose picked it up from somewhere further north, which would also make sense since who's kind of picked his feet up. And Ralph Malsally only very recently passed away a couple of years ago. He was 104 years old when he passed away. But this variety is still maintained by other members of the Malsally family, and also in the region of Southwest Pennsylvania. It's actually a fairly popular variety, even though to my knowledge it has never been offered in any seed catalog, but within that region it's very popular bean variety. I wanted to share with you a collard story. Collards, of course, have a long tradition in the South of being home saved, and much of the diversity of collards that exists is because of heirloom seed stewardship. There are some commercial collard varieties that are grown for markets or have been released by university breeding programs and that sort of thing. But by far, most of the diversity of collards exists and continues to exist because of people, because of home seed saving and because of heirloom seed stewardship. It's actually, Ira and I are in the midst of incubating a project to work on renewing collards stewardship in the South, because it appears to be a threatened tradition. About 10 years ago now, 2005 or so, a couple of geographers did a study of heirloom seed stewardship of collards in the Carolinas and Georgia and Mississippi. And one of the things that they were struck by and they wrote about when they published their results was that almost everybody that they talked to was 70 years old who was stewarding these varieties. And they predicted that within 10 years that there were not going to be very many collard seed stewards in the South. That was about 10 years ago. And so Ira and I are kind of hatching a plan to try to inspire people to become stewards of collard and take up stewardship from some of these elders who won't be with us for very much longer. The varieties, one thing that was nice about the research project that these gentlemen did, these geographers, is that they collected seed samples from most of the heirloom stewards that they talked to, and they donated that to USDA, and these varieties are now in the USDA seed vault. They collected over 75 different heirloom varieties. So the germplasm is there. We're concerned about the traditions and the history behind the varieties. We would like to collect more of that from these original stewards, and then also find the next generation of stewards. It would be a shame if the way that people in the South connect with collard would only be in a restaurant when the tradition is much deeper than that, much richer than that, and that diversity has always been carried on by people growing these varieties, these unique regional varieties in their gardens, saving seed from it in their gardens, and then doing that generation after generation. Yeah, Ira.
So these people who are interested,
Yes.
in seed stories are here. I'm saying through various accidents, like some person from Southern Living when they just did a story that, and a person interviewed me and mentioned about 2 sentences worth of this, and every day I've been getting 2 or 3 people who want to steward, and I think some people here would be excellent future stewards, adoptive parents of one of these lovely varieties. So, where I hang out. You come on by and give me your name, and as the project evolves, I will keep you in touch.
Yeah, but we're hoping that that'll be a nice opportunity to, we're hoping that with a little bit of active intervention